Welcome to episode 7 of Behind the Mask with Rich Glazer, and we are very excited to have Coach Frank Nicolosi on our podcast, formerly of Highland High School, formerly of Chestnut Hill College, with the Mid-Atlantic Show now. If I'm missing anything, let me know, Frank, but happy to have you on.
Happy to be here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. First question out of the gate, with all this going on, how is a travel baseball program like the Mid-Atlantic Show, how are you guys dealing with the shutdown? Are you staying in contact with players, sending out, itineraries on what they can do at home? What's going on?
It all starts from the top with I know you guys know, Tom Johnson, the owner and everything, and he's been great during all this, just, kind of trying to guide everybody and keep everybody in touch and, as he hears something. So it all starts with him, but then it's kind of cool because every coach is kind of taking it into their own hands and done, different things, whether it be sending out videos or drills, group chats, and now with Zoom and everything, a lot of our coaches have taken on, Zoom calls, and whether it be inviting players, like I know we just actually got off of a Zoom call with our older guys, and we set them up every week, and we talk about something different. Today's was a hitting talk with a good friend of mine. We had a couple players that used to play for us that are either playing college ball now or are lucky enough to be playing for professional ball, or whether it's just a Zoom call with, us as coaches, and just to make sure that the guys are still mentally prepared. Because I think the mental side of it is the biggest thing, the mental health and during all of this, just because, everybody's out of their normal daily routine and, we should be on a field right now. And so I think really the biggest thing is just what we're doing right now is just the Zoom calls and making sure, like I said, that we're all still mentally prepared. So.
Gotcha. We're going to have Tommy on Tommy's coming on next Monday. Yeah, Monday.
Monday? Yeah. Awesome. That'll be a good one. I'm surprised you got him, man.
Oh, Tommy makes time for us, man. Favorite umpire organization.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Go ahead, Rich.
Frank, how many different teams do you have training and playing over at your academy there?
If I'm not mistaken, I think this past winter, I think we had just with the Mid-Atlantic Show, it was 18 of our teams, if I'm not mistaken. Tom, I apologize if I got that wrong. I don't know if it's more or less. I think we're right at 18. We also have a lot of the local high schools coming down and training as well. Some little league programs that come down and train as well. But as far as Mid-Atlantic Show, it would be around, I think it's 18 of the Mid-Atlantic Show teams from 8U all the way up to 17U.
Now, I noticed I Googled the academy name, and I noticed that some of the teams have the words select, show, and things like that. What are those different things explain?
So it's basically the difference of teams. Instead of we've never really been not a big fan. We tried it last year doing the coach's name next to the team. It's really just a way to distinguish the teams. We always try to focus on quality teams. At the level, we don't want to just put teams together just to put teams together. So we'd like to also try to make it as equal as possible, going to, the same events, the same tournaments, having a similar schedule. That way it makes travel easier. We have a lot of players on each team that are friends with each other, and they carpool and things like that. So really it's only a way to, kind of distinguish, from one team to the other team. I know, at the younger levels, it might be more of, listen, I'm just going to be honest and say it. I know parents say it all the time and this and that. It might be the difference between an A and a B team. But at the same time, at the younger levels, we still try to develop each kid the same way, because you never know what an older, a player is going to turn into, whether it be middle school or high school or later. At the older levels, we really focus on the quality. So, for example, Tom actually has me now running the 17U age group, which we have a national and a select. The way that we do that is basically we put two teams together, quality teams together, that basically we think these kids have the opportunity to play some level of college baseball. If they have the tools and they just need to develop a little bit more, or if they have the work ethic and they're, whatever it may be, if we think these boys have, something that it takes to be able to play college baseball, we put them on one of our national or select teams that we have. So, I guess long-winded answer is just a way to kind of distinguish teams. So, to make it easy when we register for events and go to tournaments and things like that.
Do you have any Mike Trouts working over there?
I wish, man. I mean, I he's exciting as a player, just watching him do everything. I mean, we have some pretty special ball players, that kind of do their own thing, their own way. Some very talented ball players, some great families we have. But I might get a couple angry text messages from parents after this, but I got to be honest, I don't think we have any Mike Trouts,
It's funny. I did a couple of games down in Millville, and with little kids. That's all they talk about.
Yeah.
Every word out of their mouth is Mike Trout.
And that's the kind of power he has. I mean, he's just, kind of using his platform for the better, the type of athlete he is. I mean, now at a time where we don't have baseball, we're not on the field. You see all the stats coming out where they compare him to the great players of the past and, with the stats and, no matter who they compare him to, it's he's right there with them. And it's people are starting to realize, I mean, they've already have realized months ago or years ago how special he was, but he really is just a special individual, man.
Frank, what I'm not just asking this because you came on, but I find this genuinely fascinating. Like we've in my position, I've come in contact with a lot of coaches over the years. I don't think I've ever seen a coach more universally loved by his players than you. And my brother played for you, so I have kind of a firsthand knowledge of it. What do you attribute that to? What do you do that causes that reaction?
First off, I appreciate that. That means, more to me than you realize. And let me just say that I talk about it all the time. I love, having Bry. He was one of my favorites to this day. And I got to be honest with you. I think it's just the fact that no matter what, I try to put the kids first. To me, the reason that I coach, and I've been coaching this is going on 13 years now, and I always thought I figured out why I wanted to coach. And there were many different reasons. I finally got to the point where I realized that the relationships that I create through this game are more important to me than anything else. And I think that players at the younger level, whether it's 13U, 17U, these players are actually very, very good at picking out, BS to say. And they can tell. They're a very good judge of character and when they genuinely care and things like that. And these relationships that I create with the parents and the people that we work with at Mid-Atlantic and the players, that's more important to me than anything. I want to make sure that, after they're done playing for us at Mid-Atlantic Show, that we still stay in contact. They know that, we're still only a phone call away and things like that. I still talk to, all of the players that played for me from when I started 13 years ago. And it's I had one of the players that played for me that he asked me to be in his wedding, and it was one of the greatest things, in my coaching career. And I guess it's just the fact that the relationship is more important to me than the wins and losses. And, it's just, I care. I mean, I think, I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I love being able to practice and getting on the field and things like that. So I guess I guess I don't know the answer. It's just who I am. But I think it's just the fact that the relationships mean more to me than anything.
Putting people over production and wins and losses and statistics. And I don't think that everybody's doing that out there.
Yeah, everybody has their own way. And listen, everybody has something that works for them. And, there's, just because I do it my way, and yes, I've had success with it, and doesn't mean that it's got to be done this way. There's guys that are out there doing it their way, and they're very, very successful. And there are guys that are out there that do it for the trophies and the wins and losses. And hey, guess what? They send a ton of players to college baseball. They have a lot of pro draft picks, and hats off to them. They're doing it their way. When I started with the Mid-Atlantic Show, I wanted to do it. I wanted to make sure that I was able to enjoy my time on the baseball field. I wanted to enjoy the people that I spend it with, my time, my coaches, my players, even the parents, because listen, it's not about the parents, but at the end of the day, when you go to tournaments and these parents are spending all this money, they're going to want to go out to eat. They're going to want to do things as a team and create that camaraderie and that brotherhood with the kids. And you got to enjoy it. And that's why I think, even your umpires, I always talk to you about the thing that I love about your guys is the effort that they put forward and the fact that you can actually talk to your guys. And it might not be with every coach, but for me, it goes a long way. The fact that I can have a talk with any one of your umpires And as long as I do it in a respectful way, I'm not chirping from the dugout, and I enjoy when your guys are around. And that's one of the main reasons. It's not just because of how good of an umpire they are or this and that. I mean, listen, every umpire blows a call, here or there. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, we remember the umpires for the one call that they get wrong, not the 200 that they get right. But, even with the umpire, from coming from an umpire standpoint, the fact that you can talk to them and I can have that relationship with them and enjoy a game, it goes a long way as well. So.
Yeah, that's and we were just talking before you even got on here about just the importance of umpires being approachable and being able to have a conversation, and like it all starts there. Even if you're not that good as an umpire, we can still slot you in somewhere. You could do 8-year-old baseball, that's fine, but you still have to be approachable and a good human being on the field. And I just think you just underscored that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. If you're not approachable, and anything, I think if you're not approachable and you can't understand, you're not going to get better. And listen, if you have a guy that's going to come in and do 8U baseball, if you think he's only going to be able to do 8U baseball 10 years from now, it might be a problem. He might not want to learn. But if you're right, you get a guy in there that does 8U baseball and can take some criticism, can talk. You can talk to him, you can approach him. Then yeah, I mean it's great. Then they're only going to grow and get better. And next thing you know, I see you tweeting all the time about guys that you've had in your program, and then they're able to go on and umpire college baseball and how much that means to you. Because of the time you put in, because of the time they put in. And once again, I've seen you out there training guys where, you're tough on them and it's the tough love, and your guys all take it very, very well. And it's a mutual respect thing from there. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things with umpires, I think, is being able to talk to them.
Yeah, no doubt.
So.
Frank, what differences have you recognized between the umpires in travel baseball versus the umpires you see at the college level? Because I know that you were at Chestnut Hill College.
Yeah, and if I could like even expand on that even more, travel baseball umpires, high school baseball umpires, college baseball umpires. How would you describe the differences?
You want to be completely honest here?
Of course.
I think there's a big difference. I mean, the travel ball umpires, I feel like a lot of the travel ball umpires that we see, and I mean, I know we get a lot of your guys, so I know I'm talking about a lot of your guys, but they enjoy it more. They're giving up their summer. They care about it. They've either played the game, they like it, things like that. They enjoy being there. During pitching changes, they joke around with the kids in the infield. They're like we said, approachable even with the kids. And I think the summer baseball umpires, they enjoy it. And everybody always talks about there's terrible umpires, this and that. For the most part, I'll be honest with you, I think our better umpires have been summer baseball, travel baseball that I've seen. I thought that when I got to the college game, I thought it was going to be, the best of the best. And don't get me wrong, we had a handful of guys that I thought were incredible. But I hate to say it, but I thought that there were some guys at the college level that were just, it was all about the ego and things like that. And sometimes they let it get in the way, and, they weren't approachable, and you couldn't talk to them even if, it was the right way. In between, passing the home plate to go coach third, if you wanted to talk to them, they would walk away from you. And it just makes it harder, especially with college as a longer season, and you're going to have kind of the same guys in conference. And, it's hard to create that relationship when, you got to keep giving and giving and giving. And so like I said, the skill level, I think it's good. High school, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was my couple years that I spent in high school baseball, I honestly thought it was hit or miss. You know what I mean? But overall, I think our best umpires I think I've seen have been summer baseball, travel baseball.
It's funny you say that, because somebody asked me, like we did like 4 episodes ago, and I got a bunch of stuff on Twitter about it. But I said I think that the best breeding ground for guys to get into college baseball is the way we've conducted training of travel baseball umpires, not so much high school. And that was like a big deal to some people or whatever. But you're starting, I agree with you, generally with an umpire prospect that cares and wants to be there so much more than any other form of umpire. And the way high school umpiring sometimes goes down is you're trapped in this little box. You have to do what the state says. And sometimes not everybody always agrees with that. And it sounds like you're saying that travel baseball umpires transitioning to college would probably be the preferred avenue for you.
If you're talking to me, yeah, I know. Like we just talked about, everybody has their own thing and they do it differently. But yeah, I think because once again, there's no high school umpire that has to gear up for 5 games in a day and do 2 games in the morning behind the plate, take his sweaty gear off and do the bases, and then all of a sudden you have to put your sweaty gear back on to do the 5th game behind the plate because you're doing either a semifinal or a championship. If you're out there grinding and I know, listen, umpiring the bases for 5 games straight is mentally draining and even physically draining. So if you're going to sit out there for 5 games a day, 2 games on a Friday night, 5 games on a Friday, 5 games on a Saturday, 5 games on a Sunday, you have to love the game. So to answer your question, I think yes. I think when you get somebody who loves something, it's easier to teach them. They're going to learn quicker. They care about it. They're going to put in just as much work as the person who's teaching them. So I would love to see a lot of the summer ball umpires get into the college game.
Gotcha. Now, you've been, specifically a great asset over the years, for me in particular, but I'm sure others, about, being willing to help improve the state of umpiring in general, even though you have no real connection with umpiring yourself besides your dad. But what are the issues you see as a coach with umpiring in general, where you can get into specifics at the college level or travel? What are some issues that we still have to fix?
I mean, and when you say we, I mean, it's not necessarily, I'm not talking about your guys. I'm talking about umpiring in general. I want to see umpires that are there for the game and that care about the game. They don't care about the control that they have. If I have, why does it matter that my center fielder is wearing his sunglasses on his hat? You know what I mean? And why does it matter that my shortstop is wearing eye black that comes down a little bit? And I understand the safety of the game is extremely important, but I don't want a babysitter behind the plate. I would like to see a guy that is passionate, that's busting his butt to get down the line. Like I said, you're going to miss calls. As long as you know the rules, you understand, you have good game management. You blow an out and a safe call here or there. Okay, it's okay. It is what it is. You miss a ball or a strike. It is what it is. But I would like to see the guys care more about the game than being in control and having power and stopping the game for 15 minutes because I'm sitting on a bucket outside of the dugout. I mean, listen, if I want to take a foul ball to the side of the head, then so be it. You know what I mean? I've been out there a million times and I've gotten hit a million times, and it is what it is. But we don't have to stop the game for 5 minutes and tell me that you're gonna restrict me to the dugout, because I'm sitting on a bucket. I would like to see umpires, and maybe it's not possible because I enjoy the game so much, but I would like to see umpires enjoy the actual game of baseball like I do, and be there and enjoy watching the kids compete, enjoy watching the kids, do what they do, and enjoy the competition from the coaches and the fans and everything. I think that's, in my opinion, one of the bigger things. I saw, believe it or not, a lot in college. Where I was at Chestnut Hill, we had kind of an open dugout. We didn't have a fence in front of our dugout, and we were set off the field a little bit. And my first year there, we never had to say anything in ground rules, but our players, if they stepped foot onto the gravel, which is right outside the awning of our dugout, umpires would stop the game and this and that and have to tell our kids to get back in. And we actually had to make it a ground rule that it was okay. And then we had to start spray painting. And there's numerous times where we had to stop the game for 5-10 minutes so our head coach can argue that, they're okay taking a step out of the dugout. And, when we scored a run the one time, or we had a home run, we had the players meet at home plate, and we got warned, and our players had to stay in the dugout until the hitter got there. And once again, I understand that safety is important, but baseball goes over the fence, and our guys want to celebrate at home plate. Who's really going to get hurt there? So I would just like to see more of just like the game, not the the eye black and the chain that's popping out and the sunglasses on the hat that aren't being worn. And I guess that's my biggest problem, I guess.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir with me, man. And
I forgot about
that. I've gotten in trouble for saying some of this stuff over the years, but
sorry. Hopefully, I don't get you in trouble here.
It's okay. We'll post it anyway. But the real, nobody thinks that they should ignore safety precautions, but you're right in terms of it really at least gives off the appearance that there is more focus on gates being closed and things of that nature than actually getting ball strikes out safe rate, which I think is where we should start. And as long as we can do that well, then we can start to talk about some of the other minor things that don't affect the outcomes of games. But again, that's my opinion. You sound like you should be on staff over here talking with us about umpiring, because that sounds a lot like me, Jerry, and Kurt when we have meetings with our guys. But
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I think it's like I said. I mean, I know even coming from your end, like I see coaches that go ballistic over balls and strike calls and outs and safe, and I'm like, you really think these guys are purposely trying to blow calls because you got this and that? No, like I very rarely talk to umpires about balls and strikes and outs and safes. For every one time I talk to an umpire about balls and strikes, it's 10 times I'm talking to him about, the 16-ounce donut in the on-deck circle isn't going to have any effect, 30 feet away from the catcher. You know what I mean? It's next to the on-deck hitter. So I'm right there with you.
the other thing I think that happens here, like, let's give some examples we make up. You're the head coach of Team A and we're playing Team B. I come over to you and tell you that your 4 holes eye black is too far down his face. That's automatically going to be irritating to a guy like you, I would imagine. But then the next day, you see the other team's guy with eye black coming down his face a little bit too far. And even though you don't really care, you're going to say something to the umpire out of pure gamesmanship now, or this is how it all starts. And then coach goes to umpire about Team A, and then Team A's coach goes to about Team B, about something they actually don't care about. But because they already got whacked for it, they want the other team to get whacked for it.
I guess I could see a lot of coaches doing that, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on the call. I wouldn't be that guy. The first time that you came up to me and told me about the eye black, what I would do is, and this goes back to being able to talk to you guys and be approachable and creating that relationship. If you came over to me and talked to me about my 4-hole hitter and his eye black was down, if we're close and we're not talking from behind home plate and I'm in the dugout, I would joke around with you, like, crack a joke and, hey, seriously, you want me to wipe that, have him wipe it off and see your reaction. And ultimately I would do it. You know what I mean? If that's what you needed me to do, is, by me arguing for 20 minutes, we're only hurting the kids by not letting them play and the pitcher's not, loose now. But even then, the next day, me personally, if I saw somebody I was playing in the same umpire, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't say anything because that's out of my control. But I do understand what you're saying. There's a lot of coaches that, would say, yeah, he's got to do it and he's got to take it off. And you're right. That's where you create a problem, because then, if you don't have it written in the rules or this and that, it does become tough.
It becomes to me, I've noticed it becomes a form of gamesmanship, which bothers me. And I don't think that's real. That's not baseball to me. If somebody actually has a legitimate concern about safety or fairness, God bless, we'll take care of it. But I think it just becomes getting under people's skin and maybe throwing the pitcher off because of he's got eye black or something, whatever. But,
there's different ways to do it. I agree with you. I mean, it's, how many times this past summer where my guys are, they see a new pitcher warming up and it's an infielder that comes in from shortstop, and he comes in and he's got one of the stretchy bracelets on his wrist, on his glove hand. And they're like, oh my God, he's got to take that off. He's got to take that off. Well, if I have a hitter that's looking at a pitcher's glove hand wrist the entire time while a baseball is coming at you, I'm probably going to pinch hit for you. You know what I mean? I'm probably not going to let you swing it. We have bigger concerns than a rubber bracelet on a pitcher's wrist. You know what I mean? And you're right. You have guys that will literally, cause a big stink just to get him out of his rhythm and get him out of his funk. But I think there's other better ways to do that. How about stepping in the box? You want to break up rhythm? Step into the box, call timeout, see if the umpire can grant you timeout if you're willing to mess with his rhythm. I know some people might even see that as, a little bit tough, but it's better than complaining about a wristband or complaining about eye black or whatever it may be. So once again, I'm right there with you. It's got to even be tough for you, because you're in the middle of it. And, obviously I'm the head coach of Team A. I really don't like the head coach of Team B, where you got to play middle, so it's got to be tougher for you than anything.
Yeah, we get put into this. What all this does basically is just puts us into this petty gamesmanship battle, and I don't care for it. Rich, I didn't mean to squeeze you out there, but we hit a hot button issue for me.
No problem. We see the people overly concerned with what I call minutia. I think some of these people actually need a life.
What a word.
And baseball is, we ought to let the kids play. And it should be baseball. It should be about baseball, and not about eye black or wristbands or anything like that. Anyway, before we switch to take the letters that we get from what we call a mailbag, I just wanted to extend my greetings to Frank Nicolosi Sr.,
Yes, sir.
who I had the pleasure of working with many times back in the day. How's he doing, by the way?
He's doing well. He's recovering. He's working a ton. He just got done his second knee replacement. He's all good from there now, and he's healthier than all of us, man. He's doing well. He wants to get back on the field, but unfortunately, I was telling John he had his spinal fusion a little while back, and he can't take a chance of taking a foul ball behind the plate. So, and he's that guy where you know him, obviously, where he doesn't want to be that guy that comes on and says, I just want to do the bases. But he talks all the time about how he misses the guys he umpired with. He asks about you all the time, Jim Tumalo, guys like that he always umpired with. And, he asks all the time. So I know he does miss it.
Well, he was a great guy. I enjoyed being with him. And when you speak to him, please tell him that I said hi.
I'll call him as soon as I get off this call, actually.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right, Frank, we usually open up, Instagram story or Twitter or whatever for the particular guests we're having. So some of these questions, sometimes we get some idiots, frankly. Yours are kind of mild, but we take them, read them verbatim, and, you could do what you want with them. Guy named Jerry from Harrisburg, I assume it's a guy, but Jerry from Harrisburg, PA. My son is 16 years old and is just starting to get his feet wet in the recruiting process. What is some advice you would give to him for him to be seen by college coaches?
And I guess now is a little bit different of a time with what's going on. But I think right now it's best to use your social media platforms for good. I always tell my guys, instead of, putting up a tweet with some crazy lyrics that nobody knows about or something how you're feeling, put a video up. Nobody honestly don't really care about stats. Not many college coaches do. But there's nothing wrong with a little bit of video. I think a lot of guys are misguided, or players are misguided, because they're focused so much on the baseball side of things in the recruiting process. I like to tell my guys to focus a lot on the academic side of things, which I know a lot of people preach, and then even the social aspect and the campus life. A lot of guys are so caught up in the baseball atmosphere and the wins and losses and the rosters and the uniforms and being able to put on a sweatshirt. They might enjoy baseball, but they don't enjoy the college life. They get there and they don't like the campus life. They don't like the class size, and they don't like the academics. So I always try to have my guys focus on, pick one or two, maybe three things that you're interested in. So you're 16 years old, you're either a sophomore or a junior, your son is. Try to find a few things academically that he's excited about. And then from there, it's easier to narrow down schools with baseball programs that have that major, that's something that you can, that your son can enjoy academically. Then after that, you can narrow it down even more by going on, how far does your son want to travel? Does he want to stay close to home? Does he want to go a little bit further? Does he want to go south? Once you get that, you start narrowing it down, then you can start reaching out and contacting coaches, using your travel coaches, using your high school coaches to help, but really just reaching out. And there's nothing wrong with continuing to send emails. I know a lot of college coaches have a lot of time right now, but during the seasons they don't. So there's nothing wrong with continuing the email, making sure you have video in that email. Once again, I hate to say it, college coaches don't care about stats. They don't care that you hit 400 in high school and you were 7-0 on the mound. They care about your academics, what type of a player you are, talk about, who you've played for and things like that. They want to see some video, and they ultimately want to know how you're going to help them win baseball games, because that's how they're going to keep their jobs. So ultimately I would, that's where you can start off. I don't know if I can, John, you can feel free to give any of these, you can feel free to give Jerry my information. If he has more questions on it, I would absolutely, be glad to help. But as far as the recruiting process, I can sit here and talk for hours on how to help out, in the recruiting process.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll give, if I can find his info, I'll give him yours. And if he wants to reach out,
absolutely.
That's awesome. Rich, you can take question 2 for Frank.
Okay, Frank, this question is from Alex from Bridgewater, New Jersey. What are some quick tips for catches at the youth level to get better?
Just be an athlete. I think that catching has, we've learned so much about catching over the last couple of years that everybody's trying to get into the analytics and the data-driven, mindset is great and everything. But at the end of the day, being an athlete, in my opinion, trumps everything. Be you, and in my opinion, being an athlete, I know it might be a crazy term to use. In my opinion, when I see a high school kid or even a college player, being an athlete to me means that they're comfortable. You could tell that they're not forcing anything. It comes natural to them. The way that I got better as a catcher, I caught as many bullpens as I could. And I kind of taught myself in what was comfortable for me as far as setting up, as far as, where I was setting up my glove, presentation. I'm not a big fan of calling it framing or handwork or whatever. My presentation with my hands, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. But at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable. If you're using a catching coach that's going to talk to you and force you to do things one way, it might restrict you a little bit back there, whether it be blocking, throwing, receiving, whatever it may be. Ultimately, when I train my catchers, I like to give them options. There's a lot of catchers that are built differently. There's a lot of catchers who have different types of flexibility and mobility, which kind of limit them. So I'm not going to force – I'm a bigger guy, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to force a guy who, is, 6 foot tall, 140 pounds to do what I am when I'm 200 something pounds. It's not going to work. So at the end of the day, do what feels comfortable for you. Reach out, use your resources. Same thing. If you want to give them my contact information, feel free. But ultimately, catch as many bullpens as you can. Learn as much as you can about, setting up and presentation. And if it's any piece of advice I can give you is, make sure that guy 60 feet, 6 inches away is happy and he is comfortable, more comfortable than you are. Once again, we talked about the relationships early that I like to create. Catching and pitching, it's a big time relationship thing. Any pitcher that you catch, you need to have a relationship with. That's actually how I got my first starting job as a catcher. It was the relationship that I created in the bullpens with them. I wanted to see where they liked me setting up, where they liked my glove, how much movement, minimized movement, what they look for, and things like that. So try to create that relationship, go the extra mile, catch as many bullpens as you can while taking it safe on your knees, obviously. So hopefully that helps you out.
Yeah, just following up on that. I mean, I coach, and my brother's a catcher. I was a catcher. I think what you're saying, and I think it's a great point if you are, which I'm pretty sure you are, that catching bullpens is that time is very valuable if you use it to get better. And I think a lot of probably youth catchers probably just think of it as time they're killing or wasting, or they're an ATEC net for the day to just get this guy's pitches in, when it could be very valuable time that you could use to improve yourself.
Oh, 100% I agree. It's one of my biggest pet peeves is when I see guys in bullpens that they don't drop and block. They're lazy with their glove side. They're not giving, a pitcher a good target. They're moving too much. They're not mentally focused. If you catch, your normal college catcher, a bullpen catcher is going to catch anywhere from 6 to 12 bullpens a day at practice, 3 days a week. If you're throwing 30 pitch pens, you're 150 to 250 pitches a day that you can receive and ultimately get better. So you're absolutely right. If you're taking any rep off, I even tell my guys when they're warming up having a catch, why can't they work on their transfer? Why can't they work on their receiving? Why can't they work on, anything? Any rep that you take that doesn't have a purpose is a wasted rep. So.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Adam from Ben Salem. From a coaching perspective, what are the differences between TSEUA umpires and your random umpire? I've had TSEUA at multiple tournaments, and from my perspective, they both stink.
Listen, everybody's perspective on or your interpretation of stink is different. I'm sorry to say it. I guess I can't, speak. Maybe it's one umpire that you had, or I don't know how many TSU umpires you've had. And John knows this. There's times where I've said that I don't think, umpires did a good job. I don't say they necessarily stink, but there's umpires that need improvement. There's umpires that are good. There's umpires that have good days and have bad days. Ultimately, I'm never a guy that gets caught up on balls and strikes and outs and safes and things like that. Judgment calls are going to be missed by any umpire. If I'm leaving a baseball game into an umpire's hands, then I didn't prepare my team well enough anyway, and our players didn't play well enough anyway. But like I said, the big thing, with the TSE umpires is how approachable they are, the effort they put in, They want to get the call right. They don't mind meeting. They don't mind talking it over, as long as you're respectful. If I'm yelling from a dugout, then they're either not going to say anything and they're not going to help me out. If I, can talk to them, hey, can I grab your ear for a second? Just that for me goes a long way. And it's not, listen, I've had plenty of talks with TSE umpires, and I've asked, can I get a different opinion on this, or can you talk to your partner, or, and they've said, hey, this is mine. He doesn't have a view, but I'll talk to him, or whatever it may be. And I'll be honest with you, even talking to the TSE umpires, it probably hasn't even gone in my favor all the time. But the fact that they're willing to get help, they're willing to talk to their partner, and it's not, they're taking ego out of it. It's not about them. There's a lot of umpires that I've had at TSE that are a lot better with balls and strikes and things like that. But I just think the fact that they're approachable is the biggest thing for me. I wish John, I wish I could say that every one of your umpires was, the best umpire I've ever had, but it's, the way your guys are willing to improve, and I guess that is Alex, I'm sorry, that asked this question.
Adam.
Adam, I'm sorry. Adam, you also don't see, the times where in the winter, for 3-4 hours that the TSE umpires are in training on live pitching and live hitting and things like that. So, seeing that over the years, the work that these guys are willing to put in, it goes a long way with me. And I wish that's something that you could see as well. It might give you a little bit of different perspective. And, hey, it might not. You might still think they stink. And, it is what it is. But I see the work that these guys put in, and I see what they do and how much they care. And, that's the one big difference for me, because I've never seen a college umpire training session and things like that. So that's the big thing for me, is the training, the effort, and being able to approach them.
Hey, Frank, I wanted to ask you, I'm rolling the clock back. Did you have a man named assistant coach named Ben Flannery?
I did. Ben is still one of my very, very good friends to this day.
Is he still coaching?
Absolutely. He is actually the assistant at Lafayette.
Wow.
So
if you speak with him, would you please tell him I said hello to him too?
Absolutely.
Rich has got a lot of hellos you need to get out there, Frank.
I got to start getting a list here,
I was going to, just on your point, I thought it was like, obviously we have guys who stink too. I'll be the first one to tell you, but putting those guys where they're supposed to be and not allowing a guy who's not very good to end up in your perfect game final is something I think we do well. And then the credibility we get from guys like you, and we just had Rucci on, because you guys see us in the winter, we're working hard to try to get them better and get everybody better. And that to me, that's a big thing that sets us apart. Just the credibility to know, you guys know that when you see the umpires out there, they've been working to try to get better. Just like your players have been working to try to get better. And I think that's fair.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because then, the catchers can get comfortable with the umpires can get comfortable with the catchers, and things like that. You could see pitches and, pitchers can pick things up on umpires and things. It's just, you're 100% right. It's only going to help everybody out. But I've always told you, I thought it was awesome that, seeing the guys in there training at, Sunday at 8 a.m. and they're in there for 3-4 hours working on form and technique and approach and things like that. It's things that you guys are willing to do that other umpire organizations aren't willing to do. It's more than just getting out on the field and calling balls and strikes and outs and safes,
Yeah, no doubt. Frank, I really appreciate you coming on. I always find your perspective interesting in the way you approach things. So I appreciate you coming on, and I'm hoping we see you on the field sometime this summer, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a lot of fun. If there's anything I can do for you guys in the future, let me know. But I'm hoping it's pretty soon where we're back on the field. I'd give anything right now just for a little IO, little practice, maybe write a lineup card. So I'm right there with you.
I hear you, man.
So
tell your dad I said hi.
And Ben, you got it. I'll call him right now.
Anybody else, Rich? Anybody else?
No, I think that's the end of my list.
All right. Frank, be safe, man. Thanks.
You guys as well. I'll talk to you. Thanks again for having me.